So I like Vampire Weekend. I think they're pretty good at making some really catchy pop music, some decent indie rock tunes from time to time as well. I think they are a good band overall. I think Contra is a great album actually. You can't go wrong with Vampire Weekend in terms of your pitchfork indie core type bands. And I actually expected this new album to potentially top their previous work because I thought the singles leading up to this were really damn good. Harmony Hall is actually one of my favourite tracks of the year. I think this is just a well crafted pop song. I think the piano leads throughout the song are really, really good. I think it's Vampire Weekend typically doing what they do best to a degree that I just really enjoy. I think when they hit the nail on the head with tracks like this, I think they absolutely get it right. I absolutely love the chorus here. I love the bridge as well. Everything about this track, Ezra's vocals just works so well. I just think it's a really, really well produced track, even if it is very clean, you know. But I think Vampire Weekend have always been that type of band anyway. You could not go wrong with a song like this if you're a Vampire Weekend fan, absolutely not. And Sunflower isn't as good, but I think it's still a thoroughly enjoyable song. It's sunny, it's bright, it's peppy. The bass line is great too, because of course Steve Lacy, the man who is just so good at fucking bass lines, is on this track. Slowly becoming the new Thundercat in a sense, because he's just so good at collaborating with artists and getting the best out of them and just incorporating that in that infectious bass. But like Thundercat though, on his own music, he's not really quite getting it with the internet, to be honest. But when he's collaborating with various types of artists, he's absolutely there. However though, the rest of this album, I must say, it's quite tedious. It's as tedious as watching that sunflower grow. The track Sunflower is just straight to the point. It's catchy as hell, but man, I'm trying to make a metaphor here, but this album is a slog. There's no beating around the bush here. I barely enjoy any of the material on this album. I think it is such a scarce sounding album. There is very little to many of these tracks. The elements don't always come together. Ezra as a vocalist is performing as his usual self, but I think a lot of the times he's very nondescript. He's barely making that much of an impression on me. In fact, each listen of this album just kind of dawned on me that I was struggling to conjure up anything to say about this. This could have actually easily been one of those a few good reviews type albums where I just have very little to say, because Vampire Weekend are really giving me very little here. This album is crying out and begging for some melodies on these songs. Like seriously, it is desperate for something. Take a track like Rich Man, for example. This track has so little to it that each time I listen to this, I forget what it sounds like immediately once it's over. Big Blue is a similar track, although I can kind of excuse it because it is mostly like an interlude type track, but it does suffer in other areas of the album as well, like on tracks like My Mistake, or even the closing track I just find void of anything. I just find it to be so empty. Like even the tracks that try to burst out with life just feel very like surface level pop type tunes. There's just very little colour surrounding these songs, like a track like Flower Moon, which also features Steve Lacy. Like these tracks are attempting to go a bit bigger, attempting to be a bit out there and adventurous and vibrant, but they kind of fall flat, and honestly at times they end up even being bad. Sympathy, I have no idea what's going on with this track. It's such a car crash of a sound. It's like this bluesy, like banging pop song that's just so like off the wall and speedy and like messy. It's just a mess. It just does not sound good at all. The opening track as well, which again starts off really bland and uninspired, and then this choir comes in. I think it's sampled from something else. Fucking hell. I don't get it. I just don't get what is it? It does not work for me at all. I think it just sounds like two different songs just mashed together. I really do not understand how this is supposed to work. It is a confusing track for me. And again though, I do admire them, you know, because these tracks do have a little bit more to them despite them sounding fairly bad. but you know, they're going for something, they're going out there, they're being a bit wilder than they are throughout the most of this album. It's so bland to me that I just feel nothing when I hear these tracks. Even the other tracks which feature Danielle Haim too, like the opening track, like there's a few scattered throughout the album, and she's a great performer, she's a good vocalist, she works well with Ezra as their like a little like duet type of thing, playing off each other. But even those tracks, I just get very little from them. Perhaps it's the lyrics on this album. I mean, I don't really feel like Ezra's writing amazing songs here, or at least writing anything better than what he's done before. Perhaps it's his singing, the way he delivers these lines, maybe that's it. I think what it ultimately comes down to though is just how sugar-coated this album is. Like everything feels so manufactured and robotic. Like I just don't get a sense of personality from Ezra performing on any of these songs. I don't get a feel for who this band is with the sound of these songs, which is actually really kind of worrying, because this is Vampire Weekend. They've never had this problem, even on tracks that I don't particularly like. For example, I guess Blake's Got a New Face or Ya Hey. Like those are some of the worst songs I think this band has ever made, but they're still very distinctly Vampire Weekend. Whereas a lot of these songs on this album, like a track like This Life, which is quite evidently catchy and peppy and chirpy, I don't really feel like I'm listening to a Vampire Weekend song. This just sounds like something that's ready made for like a commercial or an advert or something like that. Just with the hand claps and the it just sounds like a really early Imagine Dragons song, or like a Fits in the Tantrum song, American Authors, Mr. Wives, just any of those bands that just had a very commercial sounding sound from the get-go. And perhaps you could consider that to be a weightless criticism or a claim that I'm making here, but honestly I don't think it's any more weightless than this album. Some of these tracks are joyous, some of these tracks are happy and chirpy, but I get nothing out of it. Perhaps it's a very subjective thing here. You could listen to this and find it to be one of the most fun and enjoyable albums of the year, but there is just far too much nothingness filling this album for my ears. I guess I'm just repeating myself at this point. I keep saying the same things, but that's kind of it really. I suppose Stranger Again is kind of like This Life. Doesn't sound bad at all, really isn't a bad tune, but I get really nothing out of it. In fact, actually this track sounds straight out of like the 60s Sunshine Pop playbook for me. Like it really sounds like it's pulling from that era so blatantly, with that chorus and the harmonized vocals, the yeah. It really sounds straight out of the 60s for me. I guess it can work in bands' favour sometimes though, you know. Wise Blood got a really positive review from me, as you remember, earlier in the year. But it really just depends. It's a very case-by-case basis thing. Some artists nail it, but this time around for me, Vampire Weekend have not. Very disappointed with this one. I get very little out of this album. Like, yeah, it just goes over my head every time I listen to it. Like, there's just nothing that sticks with me, apart from Harmony Hall and Sunflower. They're the only ones. But yeah, I'm gonna go 5 out of 10. Really didn't dig this at all. But let me know your thoughts on this album. Thank you for watching my review. Have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'm sure you won't be subscribing based on this review, but let me know. Be civil. Have a good day. Goodbye.